Okay, Disco Godfather here, and this will be a video that I probably should have done before I did my video specifically on the first generation Blaser tactical rifles. This is going to be an overall history. This is going to be from day one into the present day. Basically about a 25-year history of these rifles, and it'll just be a quick overview. I won't get into too many details. The thing to remember about the Blaser tactical rifles is they didn't start as tactical rifles. They debuted in 1993 along with the Blaser R93 platform, which was essentially a modular hunting rifle that used what's called a spline lock. Didn't have a receiver, had a completely integrated barrel and receiver, basically barrel and extension setup, all in one piece that allowed it to take any kind of caliber. I think the R93 at one point had about 20 calibers that were supported, and that rifle was sold from 1993 till 1997, and it was sold in as many different names: UIT, CISM, LRS, R93 Tactical. The important thing to remember is that they were all basically the same rifle. They just had a few different small variations in their design. Some of them were outfitted with hammer-early diopter sights. Some of them were outfitted with different kinds of accessories. Some of them were single shot. Some of them had a 10-round magazine. They sold between 93 and 97, and in 1997, SIG Sauer GmbH, the German SIG Sauer, took over Blaser. And right away they realized that the rifle had not really sold well in the competition world. It was basically a UFO. It was so new, and despite it being very accurate, I don't think the sales were very good. Plus, SIG Sauer as a company specializes in police and military sales, so they realized that the competition rifles probably wouldn't be able to be sustainable. The market wasn't really responding well to them, so they had to transition into a police military role. And there was a lot of interest from police, especially during that time period in the late 90s, for this platform. Some of the problems with the first generation rifle, will just go across the board. They weren't really problems for competition, but they were for ruggedized use. So Blaser used these plastic panels both at the front and the rear. They're made out of a very hard Glock-like polymer, and they have a lot of gaps and holes in between where dirt and other things can collect. It was clear it wasn't intended for any kind of real rugged use. Also, the receiver itself, which is essentially the entire gun, was made out of a cast forged and then machined aluminum billet, and it was extremely expensive to make. It just has so many complexities to it. It also essentially is a really bad idea for any kind of cold weather, because despite being able to grasp this polymer in the most usual places that you would grasp the rifle, you still have to touch the receiver from time to time, and in freezing cold weather it just was kind of a no-go. Also, there were a lot of strange features like this kind of mounting bracket area, which appears on both sides of the rifle. It has these 3 screw holes. That was considered completely alien to the police and military world, because it was intended for a hammer-early diopter sight, to mount a hammer-early diopter sight. That's something that you'd never use in police or military situations. So that was always a sticking point. The biggest single thing was the magazine system. So the magazine that these guys use is a pretty unremarkable dual stack 10-round magazine. It does have this kind of bizarre feed lip on the front. And the problem that Blaser engineers originally encountered with trying to feed the R93 from a box magazine, because remember the standard R93, the hunting rifle, feeds from an internal magazine. It doesn't have a removable magazine. When you get to a removable magazine, the magazine essentially has to raise all the way up in order to allow for the round to feed directly into the chamber relative to the bore axis. It then needs to scoot out of the way when the bolt rides over the top of it. And the reason for this is that Blaser engineers wanted to present the round into the chamber without having to use any kind of ramps. Bullet ramps in this style of action are extremely difficult to achieve. If you look on the inside of these guns, there's no room. I mean, basically this receiver ring in the back here, this is the ring that has the rear locking lugs on it. There's no place to cut into it, or you'd be, you know, significantly weakening the action at that point. So Blaser engineers realized that they needed to come up with a system that allowed the magazine to essentially travel up and down the mag well via an elevator type mechanism. And basically what's going on in here is that there is in fact an elevator that's spring loaded, and it is attached to the magazine release, and it basically clips onto this little point right here on the mag, and the mag rides up and down inside the mag well. That was a big non-starter for any kind of police or military use, because you essentially had to keep the magazine well completely free of dirt.